The great blues guitarist B.B. King was once reputed to have said, "The beautiful thing about learning is that no one can take it away from you." Now on the surface that sounds pretty straightforward. The things that you learn in this life would certainly seem to belong to you. At least in the traditional way that we think about learning, once you have learned something, you now have it available to you. But let's think about that a little. Does learning really work that way? Is it something that occurs at a certain moment, like an event, and out of that event there's something that we gain and that belongs to you? The great educator and activist Paulo Freire refers to the banking model of education, where we sort of are empty containers into which teachers, or life for that matter, deposits information or skills, and then we have them. But if that's the case, what does B.B. King mean when he said that no one can take learning away? If learning is just this deposit of information or skills, then how are we assured that no one can ever take them away from us? Is it because we encode the information or skill set within our identity in such a way that it isn't really accessible to anyone else? But then, what happens when we grow and change as a result of learning? When learning actually modifies our identity, a sense of who we really think we are? The jazz composer and bass player Charlie Mingus once said, "In my music, I'm trying to play the truth of what I am. The reason it's difficult is because I'm changing all of the time." If learning is somehow involved in this dynamic process of how we change and grow, then the idea that it is simply something that occurs and is finished, or is simply information deposited into an empty container of the self, isn't really an adequate explanation. But if learning was not a conclusion, as in, I learned that, what if it's an ongoing process that never ends? Let's take the example of learning to play the guitar. One model for learning the guitar is to learn until we have enough chords and enough scales that we can play the songs we like. Then we can say, I have learned to play the guitar. However, to think about learning as a finished product, I have learned that, really doesn't get at the nature of learning. Because learning isn't the finished product of, I have learned that. It is instead the process by which one learns that. This is what B.B. King meant when he said that you can't take learning away. It is because learning is not a thing you can have or not have, something someone can take away from you. Learning is a process. When Charlie Mingus says he is trying to play the truth of himself, he is suggesting something very profound. Because the truth of who we are is infinitely complex. It isn't just made up of ourselves as a body or a series of beliefs or thoughts, or even our experiences of the world. The truth of who we are is made up of everything we encounter in the present moment, as well as all of the learning of every guitar player who came before us. Not only is learning a process and not an event, it is a process that is collective. That is, we all learn together, and everything learned is composed out of everything that has ever been learned before. It is an assemblage, a pastiche, a bricolage, a collage, but like a kaleidoscope, always in motion. Which is why Mingus says that playing the truth of himself is difficult, as he puts it, because I am changing all of the time. Learning is a process in motion made up of all of the elements of any given moment in a constantly shifting ecology that makes and unmakes us continuously. In a sense, then, learning doesn't happen at a particular time or place. It always happens at the edge of things. It's a space between things, where what is about to happen hasn't happened yet. We might call such a space liminal, a space that occurs just before we can know anything. To return to B.B. King, this is another reason you can't take learning away. Because learning as a process is driven by things that can't yet be known, spoken, or acted. It can only be sensed as it emerges and disappears and emerges and disappears. It is passed on between us and among us as a dynamic living force of creativity and production. Learning in this sense never stops. It can't, and it won't. As long as there is life, there is learning.